Teachers of Reddit, what is the smartest, most creative way of cheating that you've seen? I'm a high school teacher. But this story is about my own high school math teacher playing us and cheating. It was an honors algebra geometry class. And it was well known that Mr. D reused the same questions every year. Just changed the numbers. He made a big deal about making sure we all gave our exam papers back to him after we had looked at our scores and gone over everything together to prevent cheating for the next year. Well, of course, some of my classmates got their hands on a complete set of tests from the previous year. Soon, everyone had a set. Before each exam, we would sit together and make sure we knew how to solve every problem on that test so we could do it on the real exam with different numbers. Years later, when I became a teacher myself, I saw Mr. D at a funeral. I confessed to him that this is what we used to do. He smirked and said, "Who do you think leaked the test packet to get you to study?" Mr. D had figured out that kids won't study if the teacher suggests it. But if they think they're getting away with something, they totally will, so he managed to get a test packet out and circulating as contraband. Blew my mind. Mr. D only play 4D chess. This is amazing. As soon as I read, we would sit together and make sure we knew how to solve every problem. I was like, wait, that sounds like a study group. God, that reminds me of the Key and Peele skit about robbing a bank by getting a job. Back in my high school years, my teacher straight out gave us a practice booklet that was just the final exam with a header changed. I liked that class. Ha! I gave my students a review sheet that was the final with the multiple choice answers removed. Let them use it on the final too. Class final exam average was still a D. He won the battle before stepping on the battlefield. College physics. Girl with a really intricate tattoo on her leg wrote formulas in between the tattoo lines. Even looking closely you couldn't tell unless you knew what you were looking for. You could tell it was test day because she wore shorts. Reminds me of Prison Break. Immediately what I thought of too. My bio department examines any visible tattoos before lab exams. Thought that was a little over the top. But I guess there's a reason for it. In school I found a pen that you could store a piece of paper inside. Wrote all the formulas for a test on it in minuscule handwriting. The process of doing that made me remember them all, so I never actually looked at the pen in the test. Luckily at university we got given a huge folder with pretty much every formula needed written inside it for exams. Knowing what formulas exist and how, when to use them is much more important than endless memorization. So then how'd you find out? I think I saw this one. Teacher is checking out the student's leg and ends up finding out she's cheating. He threatens to suspend her. Unless there was a class that allowed you to bring one sheet of handwritten notes to exams. I knew a guy that created a font of his own handwriting and used to print the entire study guide onto a piece of notebook paper. Front and back. He even set the font color to pencil gray and managed to get the margins and spacing exactly right to look like it had been handwritten. Modern problems require modern solutions. Age-old problems. I had a professor who not only didn't have the ability to teach the course to us, told us that we can bring an any size cheat sheet for our final exam. He was serious about this. Final exam came and there was this one girl who only had a single piece of notebook paper, while the rest of the class has multiple pages stapled together. Someone brought in a scroll. I brought in a poster. The girl complained how it was unfair for her to stay up all night actually studying the topics. Bitch. I stayed up all night. 2. Trying to figure out how to work the examples I printed out. The professor listened to her even though the entire class protested against her. To be honest though, I decided a poster as a joke. I wanted to have a scroll as well. But I really thought he was letting us have it. That sounds like a lot more work than just writing notes on a piece of paper. You just have to figure out how to do it once and you can use for every exam after that. I think it's worth it. My girlfriend works for a dental exam company, which are obviously super high-stakes exams. Since the exams are worldwide, they have actually found people from one time zone paying people from another time zone to email questions to them right before the exam starts. There's actually a movie with this same plot called Bad Genius, where a student takes a test in a different country that is a few hours ahead and texts the answers back to others that have the test in a few hours. I watched this movie. It's inspired by a bunch of different cases of creative cheating in Asia. This happened with the app exams last year. I'm pretty sure there was a subreddit for it, and when College Board found out, they forced the PPL in the different time zone to stay in the class until the other time zone started. Not the student but the teacher. So, the teacher, let's call him Mr. A, had a reputation for being a phenomenal teacher who had every student engaged, invested in his class. No matter how mundane the subject. Anytime he asked a question, every student's hand would shoot in the air with them shouting things like, "Call on me," or "I know the answer." Simply, Mr. A developed a reputation in the district as one of its best teachers. Fast forward a couple years and I'm grabbing coffee with Mr. A and I ask him, "What's your trick? How did you get every student bought in?" His response, "Well, I told the kids every time we had a visitor in class. I need you all to raise your hand like I was giving away free candy. But if you don't know the answer, raise your left hand. If you do know it, raise your right hand. So I know who to call on and we all look good." Worked like a charm. Finnish schools also used this method when we were still occupied by Russia in order to look good to the inspectors. Genius. I want to see the one day where everyone in the class raised their left hands. My elementary school in China. Whenever visitors were expected, the teacher would literally rehearse that class like for the entire week before the visitors came. She would tell us all the questions that will be asked. And then pick a student for each, to coach them the answer. I think we even rehearsed slightly wrong answers so that it looked real. I could bet you $1 that this is still common practice in China right now. ETA, so when a question is asked, we all raise our hands but we know who's getting picked. My exams that used a graphic calculator TI-84 required us to show the examiners a proof of reset screen before the papers started, so instead of actually studying for my papers, I painstakingly redrew the proof of reset screen pixel by pixel in the TI-84's pixel art program and stored all my notes in it. Our calculator had a storage feature too. Once you open the battery cover, it turns off, and on next start it shows the reset screen. We had to open the cover and let the teacher press OK to reset. No way of cheating here. If it's a T-calculator, set a really simple program to launch on startup with a fake reset screen and OK box. During a spelling test. "Miss, how do you spell piano?" The spelling word was piano. Teacher went on autopilot and started spelling the word. One time in the 3rd grade, there was a girl that didn't hear the word the teacher said on a spelling test, so she leaned over to me and asked what she said. Me being the good student I was, there was no way I was going to talk during a test. So you know what I did? I fucking wrote it down and passed it to her, not thinking I had just spelled the word out and that would be considered cheating. Promptly I was caught doing this by the teacher and realized what an idiot I was. Elaborate excuses told to teachers part 2. That's actually hilarious. Good for that kid too. Shoot or shot. I got out in the spelling bee in 5th grade because I couldn't tell if they were saying ladder or latter, and apparently you can't ask, is that with AD or with AT? Did you not have the option to have them use it in a sentence? JFC, what have I started? I was grading a written assignment that had a 1,000 word count minimum, and one particular paper just felt really short to me despite Word telling me it was roughly 1,100 words long. On a hunch I hit Ctrl-A, and sure enough, after the paper concluded there was a lot of white nonsense text on a white background. That's gotta be the dumbest form of lengthening a paper there is. If you email the document, one click foils the plan. And if you turn in a hard copy, the white text doesn't even count. If you turn in a physical copy, you won't have a strictly enforced word count. Probably a page count if anything. And 9/10 students don't email their papers. There will be a turn-in portal somewhere that typically doesn't detect the white text. Pro tip: I used to do this when submitting resumes. At the bottom of the document I would type in the keywords for the job posting. Change the font to blend into the white background. And then convert the doc to a PDF before submitting. Always put my resume at the top of the candidates since every single keyword was listed on the document, but was undetectable by the hiring manager. Physics professor posted the answers to the homework online after it was due. Thing was, he was just making the existing pages visible and the URLs followed a simple and predictable format. If you knew the URL you could look at it before it was made public. One of my professors had file names like this, but actually the next numbered one was a Word document that just said "nice try" in it. Harvard wants to know your professor's location. Does your professor have a master's in bamboozle? We found out my ECON 103 professor did this too, except when we typed the URL in. It led to Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up" video. We got Rick rolled. Something similar happened to me. I was trying to find answers to a homework. Where I found it I realized the URL was to my teacher's website. Like this: school initials, teacher's name, homework answers, random numbers and letters. So I got rid of the random numbers and I found every single homework answer sheet for the year. What I realized is that on the teacher's website he can make links like "contact me" or "this week's schedule" but make them not visible to click on his site. Used it the entire year and kept it a secret. The next year I had some friends take the class and made them promise not to share it with anyone because it's an app class and if we got caught they may take away our credits. That was 4 years ago, so I think I'm fine. Alright boys. We got him.